Welcome back to Cottage Designs by Erin, where today we are working on the quilt behind me, which is a Trip Around the World baby quilt. So here's what's happened. I was making the paper piece blocks, which I'm very happy with, using the same fabrics. But the mommy that I'm making this quilt for is going to have an early delivery. So I know that I will not have time to get all of these little paper piece blocks done. So I need a quicker method. So I decided to go ahead and finish the paper piece blocks at a later date and make this quilt now so that when she goes into labor, I will have a quilt ready to go. So this is made using a 5.5 inch OmniGrid block, and I'm going to measure it for you. Last time I used an OmniGrid, somebody said that's not the size you used. You read it wrong, so here you go. 5.5 inches, that's what size this is. If you do not have an OmniGrid template, you can make your own 5.5 inch square by flattening a cereal box, using a piece of poster board, construction paper, whatever you might have on hand. So I cut these blocks out this morning. It is all made using the same fabric that I showed you on the paper piecing video. Well, I can hardly lift it. Okay, here's all the fabric, and this is an older Riley Blake material. It is no longer in print. So how did I arrive at this color scheme? Basically, all of these fabrics were already coordinated to go together, so it was a no-brainer. So what I like to do, in a normal Trip Around the World quilt that I would make, I would use the colors of a rainbow. Roy G. Biv. Red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet. But since I didn't follow that design plan, I just used the fabrics that were on hand, and what I was trying to do is draw your eye into the center and out to the outside. So if you noticed, I used the bigger, bolder prints in the center of the block. So we've got a polka dot, we've got a paisley, we've got a check, and then I felt like maybe the eye needed a place to rest, and so I went with a solid orange. And then I went with a flower pattern, and then I went with, on the outside edges, a very petite daisy print. So looking at it from here, you can't even tell that the pink blocks have daisies, but if you look at it up close, it's actually very busy. Okay, so the next thing we want to do is we want to start sewing this together. And it doesn't matter which row you start on. I usually start from the middle, but since I'm at the bottom of the quilt, sitting closest to the bottom edge, I'm going to just start at the bottom. So the main thing you need to know when sewing a Trip Around the World quilt, to get your intersection seams to match, to join, you need to sew one row to the right, one row to the left, one row to the right, one row to the left. And not, when I say sew, I'm saying press it. Okay, you're going to sew it straight, and then you're going to, once you get the whole row done, press it to the left, press it to the right, so on and so forth. The next row always needs to be pressed to the opposite direction of the first row to get your sections to intersect like they're supposed to. Okay, so let me reach back here, and I'm just going to grab the first two pieces. These are set 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 5 across. Nope, 7. I'm sorry, 7 across and 7 down. So I'm going to move the camera to my hands now. I've already threaded up the machine, and we are going to start sewing this together. Let me bring my machine up. I finally got me a wool pressing mat. I'm super excited about that. And how did I buy it? With my Amazon gift card rewards that I use, or that I acquire from getting Fetch app reward points. Okay, so the pink is on the outside. We're going to put right sides together and start sewing this together. Now, you can use what they call a kite method and push several blocks through at once. I'm not going to do that because sometimes I tend to get confused and I get the blocks backwards. So I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to go little by little. You're still sewing 2 blocks at a time, so it's okay. This is one of the first quilts I ever learned to make. And anytime I have to make a charity quilt or a quick baby blanket, this is usually the design I rely on because it comes together so quickly. This won't make a very large baby blanket, but this particular size will be good for when the baby outgrows it, and then you can put it in the car as a car seat quilt. All my grandchildren have car seat blankets. This is my daughter's best friend. She knows I'm making her a quilt, and I did have her pre-approve the fabric because you know how these young mothers are. They only want to use what they like. And if you make them something they don't like, it usually gets donated. So I always check in first and say, is this design okay? Are these colors appropriate? Are you going to be able to use this? Because I don't want to waste my time by making something that somebody doesn't want. Because even though this fabric was given to me, I will still have batting, which would be about $20, backing, which would probably be another, I don't know, maybe 10, and then all the time and effort and energy I put into cutting it out and sewing it together. So we're almost finished with the very first row. I'm sorry if I look a little worse for the wear today. I actually just came in from mowing the yard. And whew, it's a hot day out. Okay, this is our last corner piece. Okay, and put this back down for a minute. All right, the first row is finished. And it looks like this. So now what we need to do is we need to lay it on the pressing mat, and I am going to press all of these little seams to the left. Which means when I do the next row, I will press all the seams to the right. All right, I'm going to bring the machine back up and we're going to do the second row. when it comes time to quilt this, I will be using the pillowcase method, which is where you have your batting, your top, and then you put your backing face down on the front of this, sew all the way around it, flip it inside out. And then I will use a yardstick to mark X's on these squares, and I will quilt it myself to save some money, because anymore, every time I send a quilt to the quilter, I mean, I never get by for less than $100. So I can't afford to have everything professionally quilted. And something this small, there's no reason really to do that unless you just don't have any time at all. I often get asked to make quilts for people, and I always decline, because people don't realize what's involved. The price, the time, the effort, the energy, and they want you to make them something, but they don't want to pay you more than $25 or $30 to do it, you know, and they have to, and it's not because they're being rude or mean, they really just don't have any idea. I had a similar incident happen yesterday. I made a homemade peach cobbler. I put it on Facebook. A person I know messaged me and said, boy, that cobbler sure looks good. I said, well, if you'll go buy the peaches, I'll make you one. I said, put the peaches on my porch and I'll have it done for you by tomorrow morning. Well, needless to say, the person did not buy the peaches. Hey, listen, I spent almost $30 on peaches. You know, I'm not going to buy the peaches and include all the other ingredients. I told him, I said, if you'll buy the peaches, I have everything else. I've got the flour, the sugar, the butter, the spices, the to-go pan. I'll do it all for you, but you need to buy the peaches. Well, I guess he didn't like that idea. I'm very leery about taking custom orders for people, because what they have in mind and what you think the project is not always the same thing. Okay, so now get the pressing mat out again. This is the second row. Now we're going to press everything to the right. And this does look a little wrinkly. I tried to give the fabric a light pressing before I cut it out so my squares would be congruent. Pressing so hard I'm making my chair squeak. Okay, so now we're going to attach the first row to the second row. And I know that my oranges are right off the center square, and so I'm trying to get those to line up here. Now, if you look, I've got one seam going to the left and one seam going to the right, and that is what we want. So that way then everything will intersect. And I am going to pin all this in place because fabric can shift when you sew with it, especially when you're doing strips this long. I'm pinning my intersections down, hoping that they do not move. Okay, we're all pinned up. We've got our intersections joined, and now it's time to sew the row. Oh, I knocked you out with my pressing mat there. Okay, also as I'm running this through the machine, I am pressing the intersection on the bottom going up, and I'm holding the intersection on the top going down. So that way then my rows are sure to interlock like they're supposed to. This is going to be a happy little quilt. These colors, this orange, pink, and green, reminds me of the 70s. It's very citrusy looking. Great time of year for citrus colors. Okay, now let's take the pins out, see how we look here. So here is the beginning of our trip around the world. And if you notice, our corners all intersect. So let me bring the camera back up. I am not going to sew the rest of this on camera because I still have probably, I don't know, if I were guessing, I'd say an hour's worth of work to do. And we've already made a 20-minute video on how to get it started. So you would just continue on like this. And so the next row is going to go to the left, press it to the left, and we'll keep adding all of our rows until we get the quilt finished. And then, like I said, I'm going to use the pillowcase method and flip it inside out, and then I'm going to quilt it using X's across the center. Once I get this quilt finished, I will post it on my YouTube community page, and you can see the finished product. If you like my video, please give it a thumbs up. I really could use your support. Even though I posted 13 videos in the month of June, I did not make enough money to receive a check. So if you would like and subscribe, it would greatly help me out. And I need to make at least $100 a month off these videos. Thank you.